Yeah, that's right. You'll never get your question finished if you don't stop and ask.
If Martin were alive today, what do you think his thoughts would be about where we are now?
Martin would say, we're wonderful position. Because that's what he was. He was a realist. He understood, like he said, I will not get there, but you will get there, right? He knew that he was going to get killed sooner or later. That wasn't even the issue, right? And he knew his work was not going to be finished. That's why he did such great writing about where we had to go. See, Martin is the only one that I know, and that's one of the reasons that's the only one I know is because I read him more than I do read the rest, right? But so I, protect myself with this line. He's the only one I know. But maybe if I knew a lot more. But Martin had a very logical understanding of where the world should go. Okay? And he laid it out in where do we go from here? You see? And so we're still on the right direction. Remember, a goodly number of people are now saying we must end poverty in the world. All right? And when we see that Obama has had more white people, because there are more white people, behind him than black people, not in percentages, but in fact, where you thought they never would vote. I was with Jesse when he was trying. I mean, it was impossible for Jesse to get it. There was 10 excuses, but they all came down to race, right? But you saw the generation of young white people come backing him in tremendous numbers, right? You saw people giving in tremendous numbers. You see white people saying right on, right? Is that so that we know that basically we're over, but not fully, okay? But think what it means. See, I have a belief that until we have a major part in controlling this nation, like president, right, which would be the ultimate piece of the action, right, is that we will never overcome slavery in the minds of, in the white mind, and that's where it has to be overcome.
Do you think that just one black president would do that?
Yeah. Yeah, is that that's all it needs, because that pretends more if you come up with them. You see what I mean? In other words, and that's the way it ought to be, all right? See, but until this time, it has been the mere fact that we're black said no, but not anymore. You see, this is what's being proven. Now, remember, Obama is not there because he's black, as somebody said yesterday, all right, in the news, right? No, they said, oh, if he was a white male, he wouldn't have been there. Well, if a white male had come up with the thinking that he did and could make people believe he was going to carry it out, they would. See, the strategy beforehand that had done things was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton came, he didn't even get to the Senate, right? Right? But he was governor of a little state down there that was, that practically anybody could run, right? Now, my point being is, though, the important thing was he had a strategy. And that's what made him the president, right? Because the whole region bought into him on his strategy. Now, Obama has a strategy, right, for opening this nation up. That's what people are buying, right? Is that, but you see, in fact, I'm going to talk to him about this. Well, I'm on the team, so to speak, right? Is that that's one reason I have it so on my mind. It's one reason to give you as an excuse. Is that, but that is the fact that he needs to talk more about that strategy. Remember, Mrs. Clinton, Senator Clinton, says, well, he only talks, except for that speech. Remember, She says, except for that speech that was given, that's the speech that was the strategy. Clinton had talked before, and he didn't come on, and our boy didn't come on until 11 o'clock that night. And people sat and listened to him. In the final analysis, our leadership has not been because they're great orators, but because they're great thinkers, because they have strategies. Huh? See, Martin King's greatness is not simply because he was an orator, right? But because the content, and because he had a strategy. Nonviolent direct action was a strategy that worked. That's what made him great. But that nonviolent strategy is what's needed in our entire world culture. See? And so that's why he is the only non-president to be on them all. See? It's not because he could orate. We got a lot of orators. If you're black, you got lots of preachers who can out-preach practically everybody in the country. But you see, when it comes down to, well, what's the content that's so different from 1,500 other preachers? It's not enough to project somebody into world attention, right? Is the important thing was that he is the new politic over and against the old. He made that night, his thinking made Bill Clinton the old politic, and made him the new politic.
So do you think the civil rights movement was successful?
Extremely, right? Extremely. And unlike the two Frenchmen that were worried about the French Revolution, and one says, well, it's too soon to know. It's not too soon to know that the civil rights movement was it was the greatest thing of our century. All right? Nothing more important happened in this century. In fact, there are those that go so far as to say that the two most important people that lived in the last century were King and Gandhi, one in the West and one in the East. Only two worth, because they're only two different enough that were successful on basic human problems in the world. Right? And in fact, in human history, is that they were the ones.
So how do we finish the job?
By following through on those who think like those that have been successful in the 20th century and build on it in the 21st century.
Can you give advice to people, to everyday people, about what they can do?
Is that they must study. They must refuse to be passive. They must be active enough about what they believe that can stand the test of moral and spiritual scrutiny, right? And put their time and interest and all their energies behind it, mainly the day-to-day energies. Money becomes secondary to it, but very important, because what you have to fight against is those with tremendous amounts of money who are less than rather than more than, right? But it's those kinds of things that are necessary, and they have to make certain that they're willing to back those who fight for them. Now, one of the most difficult things we were talking, everybody during the last election, this last time that Bush was selected, is that so many people voted against their own interests, all right? Simply because they were told, you've got to vote for something that had nothing to do with the political life of the nation, and nothing that was going to get passed anyway. All right, and so they voted against their own interest.
They were educated.
Yeah, well, they were educated by people who didn't have their interest at heart. They were educated. In fact, while we're at that and just talking about it, because this is a good deal of what we're talking about that is news, is going to be passé for your piece. But the one commentator said that 800 people, it was 800 hits on his website of people Republicans who crossed over to vote for Hillary. Now, because they wanted her to lose, they wanted her to win, so that she would run against the Republican McCain, so he could win. Well, they were told to do that by one of the commentators of the far right, of the right at least. All right, told to do that. Now you take in print media years ago, we figured a letter meant 10 to 1. Right. Well, shall we say it's probably, but let's deal with that. Let's use it as 10 to 1. That would be 8,000 votes, right? Right. Is that 8,000 votes? We could have won Texas. See, so she didn't win Texas, because there was a strategy going on to defeat her and the Democratic Party. But very little talk was done about that, right? It took 3 days before you really heard about it.
Okay, right? You just said that, and I have to ask.
Yeah.
I keep asking people. Nobody can give me an answer.
Mm-hmm.
When people do things like that, why does it take so long for the big people to speak up? And in those cases, how come those big people don't speak up?
Well, I'll give you standard answers because I don't know either. So I can give you some standard answers, all right? Is that who owns the media? Which side are they on, right? Is it that's a standard answer? Who are the rich that are going to benefit? Or shall we say, who's going to benefit most and knows that and has enough power to make certain that they're not losers in the process, right? Now, of course, those are standard answers. I don't know any reason anybody else does. But I know that there's a lot of, if there's not real total truth, there's a whole lot of truth in it, right? And that we have to start there, but that doesn't mean we stop looking.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Beautiful.